since last week, like I can see that the entire post is blown up. It's about like there's an open source licensing debate. There's conversation
Mm,
about hiring process failures, which I think everyone is experiencing right now. Even people who've got great, like passports full of FANG companies, like myself, are having to do 40-hour take homes and still getting, a thanks but no thanks form letter. It's rough out there. Corporate ethics, whether companies have moral obligations to contributors of open source or like are they just parasitizing them? And of course, economic justice. I'm gonna recommend that people go read the full conversation on Hacker News,
mm.
as I'm more interested in discussing what you actually built. I'm a big believer that when developers understand how something is built, the magic disappears. Oh my God, Claude can use my computer. It's amazing. Anthropic's the best. Oh, wait, secretly underneath all along, it was this open source library. Wait, I could build that, right? And that is what I want to dive in here on. Enigo is pretty flippin' awesome. Um, could you tell me more about what it is and why it's useful to developers today?
Sure. Enigo allows you to basically simulate mouse and keyboard input, and that's it. It's intentionally kept simple, or well, it's not so simple. It's surprisingly difficult to even do that simple thing. Um, One day I would like to also be able to listen to input and then maybe change it because it opens a number of different applications. But for now, it can only simulate it because there's still a number of bugs that I would like to fix first before moving on to yeah, reading it, because that would surely open a whole new can of worms. So for now, it just simulates mouse and keyboard input, and it can also read the location of your mouse, do some mouse clicks. So basically everything you need to control your computer and pretend there's a human or an AI can move it and type stuff. Um, yeah, and the complexity of it arises mostly because of the different platforms that are supported, because there's different protocols. It's not the same on the different platforms. Everybody has their own ideas how to do that. And especially on Linux, with the change from X11 to Wayland, it's difficult with the protocols. The protocols are still developed, and then you have to support different protocols, and then some compositors don't support all the protocols. Um, yeah, so that's a bit of a challenge.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So let's see. Enigo supports Windows, Mac OS, BSD, and Linux. That's Wayland,
Mhm.
X11, and how do you say it? Libe?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce it actually. Yeah, but it also supports that. That's what GNOME, for example, uses, or genome. I don't know how to pronounce that either.
Are there are there any other kinds of inputs that you would like to simulate? You mentioned
Yeah,
mouse and keyboard, but what else is there?
um, there's high resolution mouse scroll on, I think Mac OS supports it, and then there are some ways to do that on Linux as well, but you would have to go to a lower level and simulate a USB mouse, for example. That's another thing that you could do, and sometimes you need that if you want to support a wider range of compositors, um, because not every compositor supports everything. And the goal of Enigo is to just use the library, and the developer doesn't have to care what the compositor understands, which versions and all that. Um, yeah, so that's something that I would like to do. And then, of course, there's also touchpad, and then gestures, You can also swipe on your touchpad, for
Mm.
example. But so far, I haven't started working on that. So far, it's only mouse and keyboard because you can do most things with with that, I think. Um, and so far, every now and then, of course, somebody asks for more features or things like that. But because it's just a hobby project, I haven't been able to implement all these things. Um, every now and then, somebody still asks me for some keys to support because um, for Linux, at least, I have to add them manually. You can also just choose the key code and simulate that, but to make it more convenient, I usually name the key, and then the developer doesn't have to know the key code. So for that, I have to add them. And there are a number of keys. Um, so yeah, it still comes up that a key is still missing. Or recently, I think for Linux, F12 to 24 or something like that were added, which existed on Windows, I believe, but on Linux they didn't exist basically.
I'm trying
So
to
there's,
imagine a keyboard big enough to have 24 F keys right now.
yeah, most of them I think are simulated, but in the article it said that there were some old keyboards, and there was a picture. They had two rows of function
Ooh.
keys at the top. I don't know what you would use them for, but
Probably the
some
same
people
stuff I
use it.
use my Stream Deck for.
Yeah,
I'm,
maybe people map it to specific things they need, and yes, some people have crazy key maps, and it's very cool what people come up with. Yeah.
I'm actually curious. Why did you make this? What was the driver behind simulating all these different key presses for multiple platforms?
It's very niche, so it's a good question. Why would anybody want to do that? It all started with my master thesis. I wanted to use the PinePhone, which is a Linux smartphone, and I got so used to swipe typing and next word prediction on the virtual keyboard that I thought that I would really miss it because it wasn't available for Linux at the time. That was 2020, I think. So then I decided for my master thesis, it would be really cool to just write um, a virtual keyboard with next word prediction and gesture typing in Rust for Wayland. So all of that was very new at the time. Or, well, I mean, Wayland existed a while before, but somehow there weren't really a lot of Wayland keyboards, and they didn't allow next word prediction and all these advanced features that you really need if you want to type fast on a smartphone, because there are some limits with the movement of your fingers. You just hit a physical limit without the error correction, and swiping is faster. So I wrote my master thesis and created the keyboard, but it wasn't, it worked, but it needed improvement before you were able to use it on a regular basis. The language model was too big, and it had some other issues. So then I decided to first take a break of it because it was too much. But after 6 months, I came back and decided to work on the basics so that at some point I can rewrite the whole thing and make it really usable and nice to use. And then I thought it would be cool to do it cross-platform and also have it for Windows and Mac OS, in the hopes that more developers would work on it, that I would get more yeah, merge requests and stuff like that. And then I saw that Enigo existed. I didn't create Enigo, somebody else, Dustin Benzing, created it. but it wasn't maintained anymore for 1 or 2 years. And there were some merge requests waiting to yeah, be merged. So then I just asked him if he needs help maintaining it, and he was happy about it. He gave me permissions on GitHub, and then I just became a maintainer. He just completely trusted me, and that's how I started basically. And I didn't even get to the part of rewriting the actual keyboard because there just continues to be more and more bugs. I thought that at some point it would be done. I naively thought it wouldn't change much. Um, but yeah, I just have to continue to invest time into it. Um,
So, aside from maintaining Enigo, what is it that you do with your day to day? Are you still a student? Are you an engineer at a big tech company? What do you do?
um, I used to work for a big car company. I got my bachelor's in automotive engineering, so yeah, I was an engineer. But then I changed my subjects and got a master's in computer science because I realized that I'm not a huge car guy. Even though I worked for them for almost 10 years, I never owned a car. I just take public transport and I'm happy about it. So I kind of felt out of place working at the car company. And then I was also more interested in IT, computer science, IT security. And that's why I did a master's in computer science. But then I went back to that company because I signed a contract that they would fund my university, but that I would have to work for them afterwards for some time. Um, and then now I paused that contract. It's very nice. You can pause your contract for up to 8 years. You don't have to work for them, but they promise to employ you once that time is over. So I'm doing that again to get a second master's right now in IT security this time at university in Darmstadt. Um, and yeah, it's very cool. I love the things that we are learning. We have very cool classes where you don't just theoretically learn about it, but you do projects. I did a reverse engineering lab last semester and reverse engineered the authentication method of the app to log into your tax revenue service in Germany. Um, or I hacked my bike. I wrote a blog post about that as well. The attack was very simple. It's just a replay attack on the electronic shifters. They send Wi-Fi signal, well, not Wi-Fi, but wireless signals to the rear derailleurs. But I had to downgrade the firmware and man in the middle some requests of the app and stuff like that, which was very cool. Um, and then some other things related to hacking into IP addresses that we got from the university, and you get credits for hacking them. It's very cool. So I love doing that. Yeah.
You're making me want to go to school in Amstatt now.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Uh,
love studying. I would like to do that for the rest of my life, but then every now and then I also want to build things more longer term. So I guess Enigo is kind of my way of building something on the side while still studying.
I love that. I love that Enigo is one, that it wasn't originally your project, which people might not realize, that you
Yeah.
actually took it over from a maintainer who'd had their run and it was sitting there with no one loving it or tending to it, and you found it and you adopted it, and its founder handed the keys over to you. That's beautiful. That's how open source is supposed to work. Um, I'm curious about a couple of things. Number one, does the device realize that it's taking on simulated inputs?
It depends.
Hmm.
I think on X11, so Linux X11, um, with that protocol, there are two protocols you can use, and with the one that I'm using, the compositor can tell, but uh, I guess most or all compositors don't mind. There are some other protocols that you can use, I think Xtest or something like that. Um, and with that, some applications ignore the simulated input. And on Mac OS, I think if you wanted to, as the OS, you can always tell that it's a simulated input, but I'm not sure if the applications can tell. I think most of the time they can't, except for on X11.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's a good question. So far, there has not been any bug report about it that the application ignores it. I guess that's your main question. If you can write a program that simulates input maliciously or something like that?
Oh no,
Or
I'm not fishing for that. I'm just
okay,
genuinely curious. It's like, so because it's important, a lot of times people are like, and the computer can't tell at all if it's a person or a script that's interacting with it. And it's like, well, is that true? But it sounds like, for the most part, at the operating system level, the device can tell that this is a simulated input, not an
mhm,
actual human being with a USB
yeah,
mouse.
definitely.
That's
And I
very
guess
useful.
you could also check other things. If you move the mouse, for example,
Yeah.
you could analyze the path,
Oh yeah.
or you can tell if you simulate text that no human can physically type it that quickly. You can do some analysis with that.
Yep. But you can also, in return, as the developer, you could simply put a delay
Yeah,
between key press and, use key down and key up together. There's lots of ways, or you could fuzz the trajectory of the mouse. So instead of a perfect 45-degree angle, it just kind of wanders halfway through. Like
yeah.
there's all kinds of things that you can do in the
It's a
cat
cat
and
and
mouse
mouse game.
game,
Yeah,
right? Right? Reverse engineering imperfection.
yeah.
Um, but I think, like, all right, so people immediately, when they think of simulated inputs, they're thinking, malicious behavior, perhaps. But what else could you use it for? Like, what are the uses of input simulation out there?
There's a number of uses. People build very interesting things. Of course, the main thing that would probably come to mind is an auto clicker. So you just select, or you have an action that you want to do over and over again, and then you just simulate that exact sequence of events. Or some people use it for gaming, I think, to farm gold or whatever. You can just say, simulate this input, and then maybe in the game, you move the mouse, click on some mine to mine some gold, walk somewhere else. So you can do that. Or recently, of course, it was very popular with people writing AI agents, such as Anthropic. So computer use is one way that you can control legacy applications and use AI with that. You basically send screenshots to the server analyzes it, and then tells the client on the computer where to move the mouse, and then click and type stuff in the legacy application. So the legacy application doesn't have to be changed, and yeah, maybe you want to do something across applications. So you can use that for that as well. And then there are some other projects such as Afrim. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. That one is another open source project. Um, it's about input methods and African languages. I haven't used it myself because I don't speak any African language, but it's very cool. If you use a language that doesn't use the Roman alphabet, you often have a problem entering your letters, um, because computers, they all come with the same keyboard or maybe adapted to your country, but with some languages, you have so many letters or yeah, characters that you can't display it on a keyboard. When you think of some Asian languages, for example, you have thousands of different letters. And for that, you need an input method that takes input with Roman alphabet, for example, and then calculates what you would want to type. Um, yeah, I think it uses the phonetic version. So you type it as if you would pronounce it, and then the input method changes it and uses the correct letters for it. So you can build that with Enigo as well. And then there's also Rust Desk, which is like a team viewer alternative. They also use Enigo, but an old version, and they basically forked it. So they use a version before I took over maintainership, and they heavily changed it. They added some other libraries to it to add some functionality. I've been trying to upstream their changes, but I'm still in the process, so they can use Enigo and contribute to it so that everybody benefits from it. Yeah, but you can do something like the team viewer.
What is Team Viewer?
Um, it's it's a remote desktop application.
Oh, so like when
Um,
you phone up Apple and say, "Ah, I'm having an issue with my computer," and they say, "Can I drive for a minute?"
yeah, exactly.
They're
hmm
using a simulator under the hood.
I don't know if Apple does it, but or how that works. But yeah, there are some alternative programs that you can install. RustDesk is one, which is open source, and then you can confirm that somebody else takes over, and then they move their mouse, and your mouse gets moved. And to do that, they have to listen to the mouse on their computer and then simulate the input on the client.
Awesome. I did not realize that input simulation had so many different uses. I mean, I've also been thinking about, for instance, how you might control a computer with your voice for people
Mhm.
who might not be able to type. Maybe they're swimming underwater, or maybe they don't have hands, or
Yeah,
can't
that's
move them for
another
some
use
reason.
case. There's lots of accessibility use cases for that as well. For that, a lot of the times you also need to listen to input and then translate it to something else. Or some people also build some remotes, I think, for their computer. So it's similar to the Rust Desk version, but I think they even have a physical remote, and then they send it to the computer and then type stuff with it. Yeah, I don't know. There's lots of projects that people just start, and most of the time they don't tell me about it, which is unfortunate. I would like to know about it. Um, but since it's open source, there's tons of people that just use it and build something for whatever use case they have to fulfill their need. And yeah, I think that's very cool that it's useful even for small projects, and that it's not difficult, or at, as simple as it can be for people to use it. There are also bindings to other languages by now. I think there's a Python binding and a JavaScript binding. Um, so maybe somebody built something else in a different language that I don't know about.
Now, is there anything you would like to make sure people reading your account walk away with? Anything we haven't gotten to?
thing. I would like that users don't have to care about input simulation. I want to make it as simple as possible. So, but if you're a developer, have a look at Enigo and let me know if there's something else that I can improve with the API, for example. Um, and hopefully I will get to fixing it. I can't promise anything since it's a hobby project, but I think it's usable already since people do use it in their projects. And I I give my best to support people with their projects. Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you, Robin. It's been so good to talk with you. And for anyone who is reading or listening in the future, go give Enigo a try. I can't wait to see what you're going to simulate.
thank you very much for having me.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.